Denise Naidu. I'm the owner of VN Industrial Armature Winders. VN Industrial Armature Winders is classified as specialists in the refurbishing and rewinding of rotating machines and transformers, including the sale of new machines. Basically, what it means is that we repair industrial electric motors. Any motor, lift motors, crane motors, escalator motors, conveyors, gearbox motors, pump motors. We can refurbish, we can rewind, repair. That's exactly what we do right now. We had no market research. We had absolutely nothing. We were thrown into the deep end. We had a do or die situation kind of thing, you know. Vino was an artisan. He worked for somebody for 22 years. Got to work on Friday and they said to him, don't come back on Monday, we're in liquidation. And there, I'm pregnant with my second child. I'm a teacher with a teacher's salary 19 years ago. And what do? He's an artisan, went out looking for a job. Nobody wanted to employ him at that rate that he was earning at that time. Look, he had a skill. And we said, you know, there's nothing else we can do. Take a chance. We took that chance. There were lots of negative people out there who said, you know, can't work, it won't work at this point in time. It was around 1996 where that whole transition was coming out and the political instability, people were a bit unsure of where the country was going and all that kinds of things. Companies were closing down. So we were in a real situation, but there was just we couldn't fail. We had to do this. Look, 19 years later, we're here.
My name is Vino. I'm the workshop manager. And this is Wiseman, busy stripping this motor. So once it's stripped, we can see what the problem is, and then we can proceed with other work on it.
Some of the challenges we faced: no money, the first thing, no equipment, no customers, no bank would finance a new idea. We were the new kids on the block. Nobody knew whether we were going to be fly-by-night or whether we were here to stay. You know, we had to pull ourselves up by the bootstrap, take whatever we had and put it into the business and get it going. If you look at my workshop there, my tables were built out of scrap metal and they're still standing. My dad was very handy. Vinod made a sketch of how a winding machine should be made. My father made our first winding machine. They both went to the scrapyard, picked up all these bits of metal and whatever, built all our tables, and we opened our business. We tried to finance this business, but no bank would want to touch somebody who hasn't been out there before. At that point in time, my late dad had just retired, so he assisted us with a bit of cash. My late mother-in-law assisted us with some kind of cash as well. That's how we got going. Nobody would give us credit at that time. You had to pay cash for everything. You had to pay cash to get your telephones. You had to pay the municipality to get your water and lights sorted. So we needed cash for every little thing that we did.
This is Dumisani. He's busy cleaning out the stator core. Take all the excess varnish out. And once it's clean, we can start assembling it.
When you're in your own business, you have to be fully committed. I had major challenges because, firstly, this was a new business that we were starting off. At that point in time, teaching was the safe job, and I could not leave that security of that immediately and jump in here. You know, from 8:30 to 2:30, I can't take calls, I can't go out after school, make the calls, and then if somebody says to me, you know, I can see you at 9:30 or I can see you at probably 11, I'd say, no, you know, my diary is full. Can I see you at 3 or 3:30? But somehow I managed to convince them that I'm coming to see them. I got my appointment and I went there. And it was a real challenge. I got into trouble as well at school too because I used to try to duck. But yeah, we did it. The biggest challenge running a business right now is the rising costs of everything and keeping your prices down, keeping your prices competitive without cutting corners and everything. You know, providing that quality workmanship and competing with everybody else. Price becomes a big issue. We have all the other issues that come in with the power failures and little things that just add and to the tension and the mix. But right now it's always like going out there and finding ways to do it more efficiently and more cost effectively. Another challenge is, again, we'll complain about the economic climate and everything that's changing constantly. And it's difficult to stay motivated and to stay driven. And these are all the challenges of doing business. But then with all the years of experience, there's cycles in business. You have your winters, you have your summers. You learn to read them, you learn to analyze them and put them in place, and you know now this is going to be a dry month. I'm going to have to prepare for it. But next month I've got the shutdown coming, I've got that line coming, and our rains are coming, and harvest and all that kind of thing. So it works just like nature. Business works the same way.
This is Salvan. He's busy doing the winding. Now he's doing the connections on it. When he's finished, it goes for testing, and then it's varnished.
The economic climate is always fragile. More so now, customer needs have been changing because of all these constraints and budgets and financial constraints. This forces us to be more customer-centered. We have to retain the people that we have, again adding value to what we do and attracting new customers and growing our customer base. The greatest learning curve in starting my business, I'd say keeping yourself open to learning. I've learned loads of things because I've started my business from scratch. I've had to learn everything that I know now. Being open to learning, not saying I know. If somebody tells you something, you may know about it, you may not know, but listen. Listen more than you talk, because you always gain something from the other person. And then that victim mentality, we're always blaming the recession, we blame the economy, but whether the economy is down, whether there's a recession, you still have your bills to pay. You still have your staff to pay. So you need to get out of that victim mentality, you need to get out of that, and you got to make that plan, and you got to get going and keep yourself on your feet. And with small businesses, it's very difficult, but it has to be done. My learning in the workshop itself, it meant I had to get into the workshop and I had to learn fast. I had to look at what the guys are doing, ask them to explain to me, so that if I went out and I looked at a motor, I had some basic idea of what was going on. Technically, I'm still not au fait with everything that goes on. I cannot rewind a motor, but I've got my professionals out there, so I don't interfere there. Learning in the office was also a big thing. I didn't do accounting in school. So I didn't know about debtors and creditors, and I didn't know how to read an income statement and balance sheet and those kinds of things. So I had to learn on the job, trial and error, and get to where I'm going. I joined the Chambers of Commerce, mentorship programs, whatever was out there, I got myself involved and learned, took advantage of whatever was out there. Being female in a very male-dominated industry, it's changing. And it's changing quickly. You've got lots of female engineers now. But when I started off 19 years ago, you didn't have women going out to see clients or potential clients. And when I'd do a cold call, and these people would say, okay, come over. And I suppose the reason was, let's see what she knows. And I'd go over and they'd grill me, and they'd take me into the workshop and say to me, this motor here, what can you tell me? Obviously, they know I can't tell them much about that kind of thing. But I learned to handle myself. I learned very quickly that if I'm going to see somebody in a workshop, I'm seeing an engineer, an electrician, mechanical foreman, or whatever, I'm technical with me. If I'm seeing a buyer, then I can go alone. And I sold my business like that.
Okay, this is Rajan. He's busy winding the coils for the little stators, where the winders will put them into the slots.
I think one of the best things we did was get ourselves ISO listed. SABS ISO listed, that's the International Standards Organization, and we did that very early on in our business in 1998. At that point in time, I went after the big guys. When it came to business itself, I didn't go after smaller companies. I went to the big guys immediately, and you had to be listed. So I got that. And then I made it a working document, because there's procedures and there's processes and all the kinds of things, how you do things and the way you do things. So it keeps order, and you organize and you keep track of what is going on. That's one of the best practices that I use right now. Keeping track of how the business is doing in terms of, when the job comes in, when it goes out. Again, we follow processes, procedures. We have a full history of a job with the job book and job cards. We have visual management on the board. So when a job comes in, we'd have it listed on that board as to the date in whatever process it is on. We have a post-it, very simple kind of thing, where the guys, if he is now dismantling, he will just put his post-it onto dismantle. So if the lady in the office, if somebody calls and asks, what's the status of my job? She doesn't have to ask them. She can look at the board and say, okay, it's now being painted, or it's ready to be delivered, and everybody knows what's going on.
Okay. So this is our visual management board. So it helps us to keep our job flow easily from step one up to the end. We've got colors. Each and every color stand for each month. When it enters from step number one, it has to go to the last step. We got the job card for filling the details, and for the details, it comes to dismantling. Therefore, we dismantle. Whoever who's dismantling that job, that he has to move the color of that card. So it must move step to step. This board, it helps us to know where the job it is at that particular time.
I was a teacher for 22 years, and with teaching, it's so much about record keeping and managing. A school's a microcosm of society itself. Yes, it has helped me a lot. That's a very difficult thing to do, to keep calm when the world's collapsing around you. But somebody has to be calm. So I have my private panic attack, and then I sit down and look at exactly what is the problem, and focus on a solution to the problem instead of that problem itself. If it is the workshop, I monitor what they're doing, but I let them handle it. If they need my assistance, I'd help. If it's the office, then I can take it from there. Generally, I'm panicking, but then I'm the leader in this place now. Everybody's looking to me, and if I go out there and I'm all, in a state, everybody else is going to be. So if I give that appearance of calm, everybody's calm, and yes, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it, and we go about and sort it out. My views on staffing solutions and staff management, there'd never be any staffing solutions the way I see it. With staffing, you're dealing with people. You're dealing with humans. There's no two people that are alike. Every day is a different day. Being a teacher, again, I learned to manage people, not effectively all the time, but what I found is that when you have rules, when you have discipline, and you have all your procedures and processes in place, then people have a starting point to know what is allowed and what is not allowed, and what you can do and what you cannot do. And that's where you move from. I think that's the first step. Small businesses tend to forget. You're so intent on employing and getting the work out. You need to put these processes into place. So should there be a problem, you've got all these, this number one, number two, number three, you agreed to this and I agreed to that. And there we are. On a personal level, you're going to have to be human as well. Your staff is important to you. You need them. And they have the issues. They have just the way you would have your issues. And you're going to have to understand things happen. They are going to have to get home at a certain time. They're going to have to do certain things. You're going to have to allow for these things. Otherwise, your business is not going to run. When it comes to staffing as well, I think again, this comes from my background in education. I believe that if somebody comes to me, they're free to leave. I do not hang on to my people. They are free to leave. But when they leave me, they must be better. They must have learned something. They must be better at what they are doing than when they started off with me. And they'd go with my place. Education is important. I encourage my staff to learn, constantly training people, constantly upskilling people, so that nobody is sitting at that same level all the time. They have to move on, and then you replace them with somebody else while they get up to that. It's a risk you take, because sometimes they move on and out of you.